Jerome Powell admits the dollar is doomed. Got gold and silver? So Chairman Powell, while testifying before the House Committee, pretty much admitted that the US dollar is doomed. But before we come to that, let's just listen to this exchange between Congressman Davidson and Jerome Powell.
There have been a lot of economic distortions, one of which is the ongoing inability of the Federal Reserve to stabilize its own balance sheet, which is now over $9 trillion. I appreciate Mr. Perlmutter highlighting some of the good news. Frankly, I'm positive that he has previously operated a lemonade stand because you can always turn something good out of the lemons. So there's no good news, but the concern is that in the long term, this has come at the expense of sound money. And so just over a year ago, I talked to you about sound money, and as the US dollar represents sound money, because many of us anticipated that inflation was not transitory and that the quantity theory of money might have some impact on inflation. So in light of the fact that we have seen substantial change in the rate of inflation now versus what was showing up then but was anticipated, do you still think that the US dollar is sound money? And either way, what are the threats to the US dollar as sound money?
The US dollar is sound money, yes. The threats to the US dollar as the reserve currency really in the near term are to displace the US dollar as the reserve currency, if that's your question. You need to be a very attractive place to hold large amounts of reserves.
It's really different than that because we are probably still going to be the reserve currency since the world grades on a curve, and frankly, the planet's never had this much debt since World War II. So all of the countries around the world did similar things. The discipline of the Bretton Woods era was gold. I don't know that there's magic just in gold, but there is magic in discipline. So if you look at sound money being defined by a stable store of value, an efficient means of exchange, and a trusted record of an account, you've at least taken some dings on store of value. And so as you've seen people decide to filter transactions and develop technology and regulatory frameworks that are intended to be able to filter transactions, it's not as trusted or efficient as a means of exchange or a record of account. And so those kinds of things, not so much do we do okay on the curve, but is it truly sound?
Yeah, I'm not sure I followed the last part, but I do think that, look, inflation is indisputably too high. We are using our tools to bring inflation back down to levels of price stability, and we will accomplish that task. Longer term, the U.S. dollar is easily the best currency, and it's because of what I just said. It's also because of the rule of law, and the fact that we're the incumbent, and we as long as we observe the rule of law and keep the dollar relatively, keep inflation low and predictable, that will remain the reserve currency.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Chairman. And look, historically, there have been multiple reserve currencies, and generally, when something loses its status as reserve currency, it's not just because of other things that unfold, but it's because the value's debased. And we can come up with fancy words like modern monetary theory or quantitative easing or, similar to quantitative easing, but not really the same. When the Federal Reserve's balance sheet's growing, in a way it represents the Fed as the lender of last resort. We're not constrained by the taxes we collect. We're not even constrained by the amount of money the world will lend us. We're constrained only by the will of Congress to not spend more. And what are you going to do? Not cover the spending, the prolific spending by Congress?
So first of all, I've shared this in another video, but the quantity theory of money is not Austrian. It's not Austrian economics. It is from the Chicago School. It is Milton Friedman. And he wrote in his book, A Monetary History of the United States, that inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. I'm sure you've all heard of that. However, that's not Austrian. As I said, that's the Chicago school. So the Austrians, Ludwig von Mises, agreed that there was a core truth in the quantity theory, but criticized its focus on the supply of money without adequately explaining the demand for money. He said the theory fails to explain the mechanism of variations in the value of money. And Friedrich Hayek, in his book, The Denationalization of Money, he described the quantity theory of money as no more than a useful, rough approximation to a really adequate explanation. According to him, the theory becomes wholly useless where several concurrent, distinct kinds of money are simultaneously in use in the same territory. So, let's say you had 10 bananas and there was $10 of currency in circulation chasing those 10 bananas. You would think that a banana would be worth about $1 each. If you increased the currency by another $10 and you had $20 of currency chasing those 10 bananas, then yeah, you would expect that those bananas would probably be worth about $2 each. Okay, so you're getting that devaluation of currency. But that's because the supply of bananas has stayed the same. If you increase the currency from $10 to $20, but you also increase the amount of bananas available from 10 bananas to 20 bananas, then the price of those bananas shouldn't rise at all. And so this is the Austrian definition. Yes, take the quantity theory of money, but then you need to look at the demand for that money. So the supply of goods and services. So you can increase the amount of currency, but if you increase the supply of goods and services that currency is chasing, then you shouldn't get an increase in prices. So this is the part that I want you all to listen to. So here, Chairman Powell, listen very carefully to his words regarding the US dollar as the reserve currency.
It's been announced as a result of the Ukraine war and other disagreements that Russia and China are now moving to trade completely in their currency, no longer using the dollar. And Pakistan has flown in to meet with Russia. There's some talk that they may be part of it. What effect would that have on the U.S. economy if China and Russia no longer use the dollar in certain block trades around the world and with each other? What effect, if any, would it have on our economy?
Well, we do benefit from being the reserve currency for the main reserve currency for the world. And that really is because we have open capital accounts and the rule of law, and we have inflation, over a long period of time under control, so that the dollar preserves its value. And so our markets are the most liquid, and it's the place where people want to be. Over time, the question is, if some want to move away from the dollar, what will be the effect on us? I don't think it's something you would feel right away. Over time, they would have to create an economic ecosystem whereby another currency becomes, a better currency for them to use. What we can do is we can make the dollar the most attractive currency by continuing to have the rule of law and open capital accounts and make it an attractive place for people to invest and to use in their businesses. There wouldn't be any short-term effect of that. Over time, though, it would I suppose it would diminish our status as the reserve currency. It's also possible to have more than one large reserve currency, and there have been times when that was the case, and so it's not really clear.
So what does Powell mean by saying that he thinks there can be more than one reserve currency at a time? Well, a lot of people are talking about and debating and discussing something that Jim Rickards has been talking about for a long time, and that is the SDR will replace the US dollar as the reserve currency. And US dollar still makes up the largest portion of the SDR. But he also argues that gold is going to get included in the SDR. I don't know if that's the way it's going to be, whether it's going to be an SDR, gold-backed, digital type currency type thing. All we know is that these central bankers and governments do not like gold because it makes discipline. They've got to be disciplined with how they manage finances. They can't just create new currency out of thin air. So I know they hate it, but they may not have a choice in the end. I guess we'll find out soon. Everything is moving very, very quickly. We do have an almighty debt bubble. We do have inflation problems. We've now got conflict. We're going to have a massive energy crisis, in my opinion. And it's not just from the conflict that's happening, which apparently I've got to be very careful talking about on the tubes now. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think? Love to see your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. If you guys do think US dollar is doomed, what do you guys think will replace it? Or do you not think that the US dollar is doomed? Do you think for the first time in history a reserve currency will not die? That it will not lose its reserve currency status? It'll be the first time in history, but please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Also, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and hit that notification bell. Those of you who have, can you just check? I've been told from a lot of people that YouTube have unsubscribed you or taken that notification bell off so that you aren't receiving any of my videos. But yeah, so check that and do that if that's the case. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you all again on another episode of Finance Uncut.